Except you, Mr. Foot, you can crack jokes. Good evening. Welcome to the March 16th, 2022 meeting of the City of Laconia Conservation Commission. We start off by call to order. That's what I just did. Roll call. I'm Dean Anson.
Deb Williams.
Al Harrington.
Mike Foot.
Stacy Susie.
Dietrich Featherman.
Taylor Daigle.
Gentlemen, you want to introduce yourselves?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm Attorney Phil Brouillard, and I'm here with Brian. I thought you were calling your own names. I'm sorry.
No, not
You
yet.
want to know everything.
Okay, so now we salute the flag, so you. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Okay. So, John is coming, but he's not here yet.
Correct, sir.
Okay, so we'll do the minutes next. Anybody have any comments on the minutes from March 2nd, 2022?
They look reasonable to me. Motion to accept.
Second.
Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Right?
Opposed? Okay. Okay. I don't want to do the natural resources chapter until after we do Province Street, so that we don't tie them up. Maybe we can talk about the DES permits.
Yeah, I just wanted to get a little clarification. We're getting a lot of standard dredge and fill permits, and typically, I got a note from 2019 or 2020 that said all standard dredge and fill permits will be sent to you guys to be reviewed. Found that last week, so I just wanted to make sure, is that something you guys would like to see all of them? I mean, they range from just replacing a dock in kind to mostly, usually if it's a big project, it's one that's already coming forward to us, like Langley Cove or something like that. But if there's like a specific type of project, like anything that breaks ground that you wanna see, or anything but, I can always send the applications just through the email, and if anyone has any comments, they can just email me back. But it's for that intervention period, so I just wanna make sure everyone gets to get their say in. If it's fine as is right now, that's all good too.
Any comments?
I like to see everything.
And I'm sure there's a heavy flow of this stuff now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely start picking up in the spring.
Yeah, between ice and docks and general replacement. No comment either way on it, just the reality of what it is.
Maybe if we just got a list of what you had,
Like maybe this,
like address, and
Okay.
like just like replacement existing.
yeah.
dock.
And I'm
Just-
curious, do we get 25 of these,
Maybe 3 a week or so.
3 a week, and for a cumulative total in season of 200?
I wouldn't say 200, no.
Right.
Maybe 75, 80. But maybe at the end of every week, I can send out the
Yeah.
list
And
of
that,
addresses that have.
and if we had a
applied.
question, then we could
Go
ask
further.
you further.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great then.
And I think the other thing is that if you look at the permit application and you think we should look at it, then use your judgment and
Yeah.
tell us that you want us to look at it.
Okay.
And I would say vice versa. I mean, if you get the list and you think that something needs to go before the whole board, just pipe up and Taylor can take,
Yeah.
make sure that happens.
That sounds great, thank you.
Okay. Anything else on
No, that was,
yes
that was
permits?
it.
Okay. So Deb, you wanna discuss the new business that you brought?
Um, I really, I don't know how to go about it, but I really think that the city needs to look at, including an ordinance when, in building, in any kind of building, that they use a silt sock around the whole perimeter.
Okay.
We're in a watershed.
Yep.
You know, I think we talked last week about Holy Trinity's development and how that silt possibly filled up the basins, the catch basins. If you go anywhere around town now, to any of the construction areas, you'll see major piles and runoff right into the road. And that's just, I just see that that's a lot of silt going down into our sewer system or rain, catch basins. And it just seems like it's more work for the city themselves, because they have to go and suck it all out when it gets full.
All right.
I don't
let's-
see it, and I don't, like I said, I don't know how we go about adding something like that or suggesting something like that. Would it be to the planning board?
It would be, that would be the first stop, yep. Let us take a look at it and see what we can come up with, and then we'll run it past you. And then, yeah, it would be, planning board would be the first stop, and
Yeah.
then,
Because even like on Union Avenue, the condominiums, the big ones, there's a huge pile of dirt there by the garages. And it's been there, I think, most of the winter, but now it's starting to thaw out and,
Yeah.
work its way under that fence. And, I mean, there's nothing to stop it from hitting the road.
And, that idea is consistent with, goal 1 of the NRI, which deals with water quality and water quantity, and we talk about continual monitoring water quality, specifically suspended solids and phosphorus. So phosphorus is attached to those soil particles, and if they're getting into the lake, then we're,
I mean, it could be that we could also look at the ordinances that are controlled by DPW that control like excavation and those kinds of things, and that might be a better place to implement that. So we'll take a look at it and see what we think is the best way to.
I mean, it's a simple solution, and like I said, I think,
Yeah.
the city benefits with infrastructure and, there's
Yeah,
not dirt in the streets,
Yeah, or at the very least, making sure that they
and a lot of the,
protect the storm drains.
Right.
With the,
and I think I look at a lot of building lots that we have now that are left are steep slopes, and they may not think that it's gonna affect anything if it's running off into the woods, but eventually
Right.
it's gonna get to that
Okay.
low spot.
okay.
okay. We'll come back to this later, as part of another discussion, but why don't we go to, Province Road, Street, sorry. I don't know.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm attorney Phil Brouillard, and this is Brian Gilbert. And Brian is proposing a 90-unit apartment project This is familiar to at least one member of the board here because he's also a member of the ZBA. He's been out to the site. It's a former gravel pit. It's got great soils. We've been working on this project for over a year. We went to TRC2, and Taylor noticed that there was a vernal pool, and they wanted. She thought it'd be a good idea if we came here and discussed our plans for that vernal pool with you, and get any suggestions you might have about landscaping or something we didn't think of when we were doing it. So I'm going to let John talk briefly about where it is, what it is, and how it is, and how he's treated it, and then maybe we can show it to you if you can't see it on your little tablets, and we could discuss it and see what we can come up with.
The vernal pool is actually off-site. It's not.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, the vernal pool is off-site. It's not on this property, but,
Yeah, it's over by the dog park.
yeah.
Jason?
Up above on the high side of it.
Yeah, so the vernal pool is like right here
Yep.
on the city of Laconia property. Sorry, I should have brought the board.
You're fine.
But, the vernal pool's right here. The only thing we have in the 100-foot setback is like just this little corner of this building. We're collecting all the roof runoff off the front. All the roadway drainage is outside of the 100-foot. And, most of the lawn is. So all we have is like a little bit of the roof right here and a little bit of lawn. What we've discussed is putting like a fence along there and, trying to do some landscape plantings and things like that right along the back side of this building. But that's the only issue that we have. Basically, we come in off of Province Road, we come up into the site, there's a building, there's 3 buildings going around the loop. And then we have a secondary access, which is gonna be open all the time, but going out to Growth Road also. We're gonna be redoing the entrance to the dog park. Right now, their entrance comes off right here, so it'll eventually come off of our new road, once that's done. And their detention ponds are right here, which some of the detention ponds are gonna get redone a little bit to meet the AOT standards for what we need for our new road treatment.
What is the distance between the vernal pool and your roof line?
About 75 feet, like we're about 75 feet away. It's like literally here, I'll show you up close. Right here. Like that's the only chunk. The vernal pool, like all the way around everything else, there's nothing in the vernal pool setback.
But it's
There'd be no storage sheds or anything
Nope.
like that constructed in this area?
Nope.
What about the retention ponds? Are they within,
What's that?
are the retention ponds within the setback?
The retention ponds we have a retention pond over here, we have a pond down in front.
Did you say there were 2 here
And
though?
these are the dog park ones,
Okay.
and we have to regrade those a little bit anyway to catch some of this drainage. So those were done as part of
Right.
the dog park, and there was no vernal pool study or anything done for that, so.
Okay. Thank you.
So where are the streams on this, John?
The streams come down through here, like that's like the main stream that comes through.
There's one on that side too, I think.
There was nothing that comes through the dog park.
I think it continues down
It
further.
probably down
Yeah.
further around behind?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so the main one is the one that comes right down there along through here, and we're not encroaching on any of those setbacks, like that's all okay.
Across the street.
There's a little wetland right here, like a little just isolated wetland on the other parcel that, I don't think we're even hitting that with the setback there, so.
Doesn't the city drag snow up here in the winter?
Do they, I don't know. Do
They dump
bring
snow.
to your site?
No.
Like to
No,
dump snow?
but they use that entry off of Province Street.
Boy, I don't think the city.
No.
The
I think
city
it's
does
been
not.
years.
Really?
They may have
I
in
swear I
past,
hear
but
'em.
not now.
I swear I can hear him once in a while.
Where do you live? They do it off Academy Street, I know that.
The city does, I'll be honest.
No, I live up
I'll
on
be
Perkins
honest with
Drive.
you.
Well,
I have allowed CBH Landscaping to dump snow on my property, which is gonna end when this happens.
Do they come in
Oh, that's
through
probably what you
Province?
saw then.
Come in through Province Street?
Yeah.
Okay, then I hear them.
Well,
Okay.
sometimes I drive, when I was helping them, I was driving up Province Street, but the rest of them would go around South Main Street and come to the stop sign, turn left and go into it.
Right, but I can hear them unloading sometimes.
Yeah, there'd be some nights there'd be three of us doing it. I haven't done it in a couple of years, cause,
hasn't been enough snow.
well, yeah, that's true. And, my truck's usually got sand in it at night and it's stuck in the garage, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that,
So they won't be able to do that when you finish this?
No, that would all go away.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
there
you'd
won't-
be
there won't
dumping snow in the middle of the,
Well, I don't know whereabouts they dumped it anyway, so.
We're gonna need all the snow storage we can get for our own project, so.
where they dumped it was usually, okay.
So it's actually a minimal
Yeah.
impact, and we think it can get mitigated by some of the landscaping features that we've spoken to. And we're wondering what your thoughts might be about whether you think we're on the right track, or if you got any more suggestions.
Yeah, we have a CUP application to go along with it, so that you guys would.
and the
any advice-
conditional use allows you to get closer to the vernal pool.
That's what we're requesting, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so, not to put the cart before the horse, but have you done a wetland survey?
Luke Powell did everything on this site.
Okay, can we get a copy of it, please?
You mean like a functions and values of the site, or what? He did the wetland, he did the wetland delineation on the site, and it was located by survey, and that's what's on the plan.
Okay, so,
He didn't do any like functions and values reports or anything like that on the site? What would you be looking for?
I was, what I was most interested in was whether you had a wetland survey done.
Not on somebody else's property, no.
No, like this wetland, I mean, he went onto the city of Laconia property just to find that, so.
Right, okay,
It's not actually even part of our property.
right,
We
okay.
found it.
But the streams, the streams have buffers,
Yes, and we have those, we're accounting
So-
for those,
We meet those.
so you're 50 foot off.
Yep. correct.
Okay.
We're just here for the vernal pool.
Yep,
We're here for the wetlands too, but
Yep.
okay, so when I looked at one of the drawings and, there was like, small.
so I printed this, I should have sent this to you earlier, but I made this today just for the meeting, so we could you can see globally what the whole project is at once.
Okay, so the streams come in a Y, they meet, and then they go through a pond, and then they come out, and I'm not exactly sure which way the water's flowing here, besides downhill.
Not on this property.
There's no ponds,
What?
no pond.
There's no pond.
There's no streams on our property. It actually runs, it would clip just the corner right here, just right here would be the corner of where the stream goes through. The stream comes down like right here by the contours, it comes down around and goes out right there.
Okay,
And it's-
okay,
It's seasonal.
And this is
too.
all, I mean, our site, I mean, basically this whole area is a reclaimed gravel pit. Like it was
flat.
all just,
was there any dumping of material in reclaimed gravel pit
no, nothing I'm aware of.
as a fill?
The fill that went back in there came from Marine Patrol, Memorial Middle School, Walmart, and, if I think about it, no, it was.
All good sandy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Marine Patrol was, at the bottom of the beach. It was all very sandy and right where they put that boat ramp in, out in Glendale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really sandy. And, the football field for the high school, when they redid that,
Mm-hmm.
all that dirt came to that pit.
surprised you don't have a mountain back there
No, it's all, it's
with all those, yeah.
It was deep. I mean, it filled it in kinda nice.
Will these units have a view?
No,
Of
actually,
each other.
Mike can speak to it well, it's really quite a little spot. It's a big, flat, almost 10 acres, but it's bounded by the cemetery, bounded by the city land, bounded by the power line, and when you're on it, you can't see anything else, and you really can't see anything else. You can't see it from anywhere else.
You,
So-
if you haven't lived in a community like this, and I did when I was in the US Navy, it really is a series of buildings that have generally an inward facing and control of it. And so it's 90 desperately needed units if we go into what we have, being focused on the world.
It is a really unique thing, you just can't see it really from anywhere.
And it has access right onto 106 and the bypass generally.
And it butts up, we're gonna be getting water and.
Yeah, it's all municipal water, municipal sewer, I mean.
And I love the second access, I've been watching this for a bit here, and, I really can see where that comes a
Have
part
you
of
had any
it.
pushback from the people on Province Street?
Well, they came and said their piece at the ZBA, and I'm sure they'll come and say their piece at the planning board, but
Yeah.
this is a site plan that's allowed as a matter of right, and
Oh, yeah.
we've gotten.
I mean, I
everything.
understand that, but
Yeah, one of the things that we had changed from the ZBA, when we were at the ZBA, we were looking at actually going kind of across the brook. And, by working with the city and going up through the city property on Grove Road, all that's avoided.
It spreads the traffic out really good too, because this access on the growth road's gonna be very popular.
yeah, I would think more people would use that than the other.
And we're actually doing a walk, like the sidewalk up to the dog park, so there's 90
Nice.
units where people will be able to take their dogs and go to walk right to the dog park, so.
Hope they don't disturb the other residents.
I don't think they
Oh,
will.
in the cemetery?
No, up on the top of it, anyways.
They're pretty laid back.
They've been quiet about it so far.
Yes. I mean, the people at that first meeting, they had their pitchforks and torches out a little bit. And then I kinda got tired of it, and I told them, I says, let me give you a history of the property. I said, 50 years ago, I was at the Block Yard, Gilbert Block Company, and a guy walks in, and he wants to talk to my father about buying his pit so that the city of Laconia could turn it into a dump.
Nice.
And my father said, yeah, okay, well, just a minute, I got one thing to take care of and I'll be right with you. And my father goes out the back door, hops in his pickup truck,
Down.
and goes over to Gerard Gilbert's house, who owned the pit. My father knew that the city had this thing about maybe turning it into a dump, and we'd already had one dump in our end of town.
Yep.
And that was the last dump. So we bought it from Gerard, and he never came back to the Block Yard. I don't know who the guy was. I mean, I was 12. So the guy finally left, and then he found out that we had bought the property. So I told these people, I says, so we bought the property so it wouldn't be turned into a landfill. I says, now on my way home tonight, I live on Edward Street.
Yep.
I says, I counted 17 houses and 2 churches that probably would have not been built in the neighborhood had this pit been a dump.
right.
I said, so you're welcome.
And
And they shut right the hell up.
I'm just,
And
I'm,
obviously, with the water and the sewer and all the plans John's drawn and the mitigation and everything, is certainly gonna be, better on the environment than landfill would have been.
right.
Yeah. And,
Well, I'm sure
you know,
they're concerned about
I
the
gotta
traffic.
say, in as much as we love, okay, me personally, vernal pools and stuff like that, recognizing what this, project is in the south end of the city, I, can tolerate some incursion on our setbacks, and I don't think it'll be any worse for it.
And actually, we do not have any wetland impacts to the project. I mean, this is like literally the only thing that we get close to, and
And it's all high, dry, well-drained
But-
soil.
On that west side, that top side there, what do you imagine on other side of the buildings? No, right in between the buildings and the wetlands. Yeah, you're right there.
Yeah, it's-
Is that,
oh, like along, putting it along the backside there?
yeah,
Well, once the building is graded in and we put a fence in, whatever the slope is or whatever we have back there, we can add additional plantings like right behind the fence to start with, and
the
then.
kids go and play out there? Is that where they're gonna
Well,
have their
that's the reason
barbecues?
we're putting the fence up,
That was
and we're gonna
Taylor's-
do monuments along the fence saying this is a boundary,
That was
because we have a.
Taylor's suggestion that
Yep.
we put the split rail
We can
fence.
put the little, boundary plaques on the fence as it goes along, so they know that, that's the area that's protected,
Does it slope down to that area?
yes.
It will.
But the roof drainage is all accounted for and
Going out
taken
front.
into the closed system, so.
And this is gonna be on city sewer also?
City
Yes.
water, city sewer,
Natural gas too.
and natural gas.
So when did Luke do his wetland survey?
Last year.
He had done the initial wetland survey of just the property, and that was when we were looking at going that way. And once we started working with the city, then he went out a second time, and we had the layout all kind of done, and that's when he went out onto the, city of Laconia land, and that's when that was discovered, so.
But-
We were like a long ways down the process before the vernal pool was discovered on the adjacent parcel.
Did he go in the summer, or did he go in the spring, or what season did he go?
I think it was summer.
I think it was summer. Yeah.
Okay,
You know, and that vernal, obviously it dries up, but in a couple of weeks, you walk up there and you'll hear some real loud frogs,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
if there's anything you want them to look at right now, I mean, now's a perfect time. I mean, it's gonna be active in the next month,
right,
so.
no,
Now, I've seen ducks in there. I mean, I live at the bottom of the city's property. I live on Edward Street, so I used to walk up there all the time. And, you know, so I know the city's property, that 40 acres that they've got, and it's nice. And I think it'll be used by the people in the apartments, you know, and maybe it'll keep the homeless the hell
I
out
was
of there.
gonna say, is there anybody up there now?
There always is.
I thought they had cleared them out for a while.
You know, I don't bug them.
They come and go.
It just doesn't do any good to say anything to them, and
Right.
so I don't bother. I've
God bless you.
okay, anybody else have any
Yes.
comments? Stacy?
So, are any more trees being taken down once construction starts?
Not after construction, just our proposed, like, we have our proposed clearing and our tree line, and then everything is set
There's
from there.
not a lot of trees to be cut though, is
No.
there? No. It's basically
A huge
a
open.
huge
area.
open,
The trees
Right.
are like a perimeter.
trees are just on the edges. But
Yeah.
we do need to obviously, clear some trees on the city's property to get over the, well, actually, we don't, not too much, cause it's
Yeah.
mostly under the right of way, the
There's,
power
yeah,
line.
we have power, we're right along the power line and then cross
And
under
then-
that.
There's like 6 trees that probably have to come down on, I don't know if you were a kid way back then, Killer Hill. Anybody, that ring a bell with anybody?
Is that where we tumbled the Jeeps down?
Yeah. Sandy Killer Hill, yeah. So at the top, Killer Hill ain't what it used to be. And,
Oh, thank God.
So there's like 6
got
trees
bigger.
that will probably have to be taken out to get that second, the exit out.
It's not a lot of clear cutting, this is all,
Well, what I'm wondering is if any trees could be added back in, because part of the problem that we're suffering from over on Emerald and Opal is the noise pollution now. The
Yeah.
dog park has been horrific. I mean, there are no more quiet afternoons.
I told you.
I know.
I said,
Do we
don't
have-
do it.
do we have a landscape, we have some trees.
Yeah, we have a landscape plan that we put together, and we can add some trees in and.
So I'm also concerned about these people, because,
Well, they got a berm and then they got trees. Cause
They're all,
like the dog park is down there and there's a banking then there's trees.
Oh, okay, so the sound is just really carrying over to
Yeah.
us.
Where do you live?
Emerald,
Okay.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's awful.
I told them to take that dog pack and bring it up to the Humane Society. And they-
Yeah.
Well, they have a lot of room there too.
Yeah,
They have a lot of woods.
and dogs.
Well,
Yeah.
sometimes.
So I didn't know if there was room at all to add a noise buffer.
Well, we've got almost the best noise buffer there is, it's the woods, and it's got, you know, it's.
I mean, for us, I mean, all of this vernal pool and all the hills, and it goes actually up, like,
It's
we're
all
quite
it's
a ways
all
higher
forested.
than that, so we're,
And I would not imagine you'd be allowing people to play their boom boxes unfettered out the back door in a community of 90
There's
houses.
gonna be on-site management there.
and this is kind of similar to Apple Ridge, I mean, there isn't, I don't think there's, you don't have any issues at Apple Ridge, do you? Or, I have no
Oh.
idea.
Not,
You haven't heard of
I
any?
mean, it's a different client, you know, for the most part, a different clientele, because Apple Ridge is very heavily the students.
Yeah.
I mean, will there be some students there? I'm sure there could be, but that's not that's not the target tenant.
These are market rate regular apartments that we propose.
What's market rate?
Like $200.
Well, whatever the developer has to rent them for to pay the mortgage.
That doesn't really answer the question.
I did.
Well,
More than you would like to pay, Dean, I will tell
Not
you.
cheap, not cheap.
well, I mean, the new Apple Ridge apartments are, I think, $1,500 or $1,600 for a two-bedroom unit.
Yeah.
And, you know,
There is no $800 apartment in Laconia anymore unless it's subsidized and it's Section 8. And so in reality, we can't build more 150-year-old houses that have been overly lived in. This is a much better project for what this community needs than trying to or put a mother-in-law apartment in your 14-room house.
and-
I
and
really like to see
and you know,
something like this.
You make a good point, because where do we build a subsidized apartment project? And where do we
Need
build
any more.
a campground for homeless people so they can go and not have to.
Not in my house.
Sit out? What do we do about things like that? It's tough. And the cost of building a unit. The reason the rent is high is it costs $250,000 a unit to build an apartment.
How much per square foot? You must have that, Mr. Brouillard.
I don't.
There
I was
is- there
just- I
is-
was
there-
just
we've
told
heard
that
it, though.
after you add up the road, the on-site improvement, the sewer, everything, and you hook it all up, you basically got $250,000 a square foot. Now, some projects might have more roads, some projects might have bigger buildings, some projects might have this, some charge. But when you sit down with the calculator, it's what it costs.
200,000 per unit, you had said square foot, so.
Oh, I did, I said.
Yeah, but there is a
That would-
square foot one, which
Yeah.
is
You kinda got
not
that.
so
Yeah.
far away.
Yeah,
So these will be all rental, no owning.
yeah, it's not a condominium project, it's a apartment project.
What's your schedule for starting and,
Well, we're hoping to get, application acceptance in April, and then
Approval in
final
May.
conditional approval in May. But then John's got alteration of
Alteration of terrain
rain
and things like that,
pyramids, so hopefully it'll be started this summer sometime. And we could use the apartments. One thing I would say to you, what happens when you have newer apartments is some of the people in the older apartments decide that they can make an upgrade, so that frees up the older apartments for some people that maybe not have apartments. So
Right.
I always say that any increase is gonna have a positive impact in a way, because it's not like, there are some people that could say, well, gee, for what we're paying for our duplex, in Lakeport, we could move into a brand-new apartment over here and have a, nice countertop and brand-new appliances and everything. And so we're gonna do that, and that's gonna free up that unit for somebody else.
How many, like, 2 parking spots per unit do you have planned?
2 spaces per unit, and then we, with the newest
We got
plan we turned
spares.
back in, we added a bunch more guest parking too, so I think we're up to 25 or some guest spaces on top of the 2 cars. Actually, it's not 2 cars per apartment, so it's like one and a half
It's
or
kind of
something like
nice,
that.
it's like a
Yeah.
courtyard thing, I don't know if you can see it, but it's like a little courtyard, they face each other, and then we have this like lawn area in the middle, so.
I'm actually so surprised. I lived in a complex like that, and I had actually written a note way back in the beginning when it went through zoning, and I don't know if you ever got it. But I was shocked that the courtyard wasn't nestled in with the buildings and the parking spots all on the outside.
On the outside of the buildings.
Right.
You
So
just
that the
don't know
courtyard
your
was like
lot.
turned into this wonderful play area for kids and relaxing, and they didn't have to look at cars or, they didn't have to worry about cars backing in and out.
There's patios on the back side of all the buildings.
Do they have balconies
around
too?
It's like woods all the way around the back.
Oh,
the
see, we had it flipped.
The
Our
upper ones have
patio is
balconies?
facing the courtyard.
No, our
No balcony?
patios are all to
So
the,
people
well,
look out the
some
windows.
people, the people in the front
Blueprints
won't
with
be
you.
looking, but.
There's some in here.
Generally around the whole back side. And if we, with this site, if we tried to shrink those buildings in and have enough room around the outside, I mean,
touching
they'd be
each
just
other.
right on top of each other.
Oh, okay, got
Yeah, we
you.
don't have enough room to do that either.
It's really a beautiful site, it's really a good site for this, because you're not gonna be able to see it, nobody will know it's even there.
And we did try to maximize the green area in the center there, and we have like a little picnic shelter and stuff like that, so gazebo.
I was just concerned about how many people would use it when you've got so many cars. Because potentially there could be 180 cars all over there.
Well, not after the gas prices go up.
Maybe that'll reduce the number of trips, what do you think?
Okay, anybody have
I'm-
any other comments?
I'm positive on it, I understand the impact on it, but I really do feel this is something that is beneficial for the community. So I can overlook a little in
Where,
that.
where are you thinking snow storage?
Snow storage?
Yeah.
Snow storage is more along, like, we're using the entranceway in quite a bit. And then there are gonna be pockets like down around in here. There's a pretty big area right over here. And then there'll be a couple spots out along the road out.
But it's gonna be on our own property.
In terms of the vernal pool, there, no snow can go anywhere near that,
Okay.
so.
If that's what you were driving at.
Yep. So the building actually protects it from.
So you were thinking, plantings, the fence and plantings?
Yep.
Yeah.
I can work with Luke and come up with something, have a little planting plan put together for that little section.
That would be great.
Okay, any
I've
other,
actually really enjoyed having Luke after
I'm
he's,
sure.
after he left the city. I mean, I've used him right from the day he left. I've been working with him nonstop, so it's nice to continue to work with him in a different capacity.
Another talented individual.
Very
Yep.
talented.
Yep.
Truly.
okay, any other comments? Anyone
Thank
wanna
you
make
all
a,
for your time this evening.
thanks, so,
Don't know what time it is, daylight savings time.
So what do? Give approval and acknowledgement to
I think
moving
we
forward
either
and
support the project or we don't support the project.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to, is you write a letter saying you support the CUP application that we're making.
I
Okay.
concur.
Anybody wanna make a motion to support the project?
I'll make a motion to support the project and submit a letter to the appropriate spots, whether it be, a TRC or into planning. And, with any addendums that anybody needs to say.
I'll second.
Any comments? I think the only comment I have is, in the state of New York, and goes back, and it's the state of New York, not New Hampshire, every gravel pit was designated an inactive hazardous waste site, which is their version of Superfund site. That's why I asked you what it was filled with. So during the excavation, if you come across any materials other than natural materials,
He knows what's there and he
Yeah.
pushed it out.
okay, okay, just
Yep.
dispose of it properly, so.
No problem.
How are the invasive species up there?
I don't believe we had any hits on NHB, so.
Yeah, that's what the letter said.
That's what the letter
No
said.
bittersweet? Okay.
It's all in my yard.
And AOT actually, like, I don't know if you've heard, but the alteration of terrain department was making you do a wildlife study on every project. And they've now reverted back to, if there's no hit on the NHB report, that you do not have to do the wildlife study anymore. They went back to that, so. Because I think they were realizing, just by the fact that there weren't any hits to begin with, and then they were getting wildlife studies that confirmed that it was, like, they were just seeing it over and over and over, so they just went back to the norm that they were doing before.
Okay, so, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Very much.
All right.
Thank you for your presentation, we like it.
Good luck.
You can keep that.
Not luck, it's skill, they're professionals.
Roll up paper.
Here, why don't you
Have
take this
good
with you,
luck with the
Brian?
weather. How's that?
Okay, so we're gonna go back to the agenda, and we're on old business, and we're talking about the natural resource inventory chapter of the master plan. So, I guess what I'd like to do is to go to the goals and actions, start there. Okay, so,
So something I kind of thought about we could do with this
Would
is
be good,
if
no
everyone
idea.
could tell me like the one or two goals that they think are most important. I know I spoke with Stacy a bit over email and she told me a couple that she thought were most important. That way I can kind of get a sense of how we want to prioritize things.
of the 7 goals,
Yeah, like,
You don't
which
want-
ones do you think I believe Stacy, I think you said the aquifer protection overlay district was really important to you.
Oh, shoot, I didn't bring my notes on that.
That's okay.
Darn it.
So if
Um,
anyone has one that stands out and they're like, I think this is number one priority, just let me know, so we can.
Oh, yes, I had said education and,
Yeah, I jotted some notes down about.
I think I had, I wonder if I saved that.
I'm less worried about, I think you cover a lot in here, I think it flows well, and I think this is one of the better pieces I've seen come forward in the past 10 years. And so if this can help us at all with our master plan, or new people coming in to our community, which is happening at a phenomenal rate, if any developer would be able to look at this, hopefully they would, then they'd see what our value systems were. And I think that's important for this community.
I have a question on goal number 2, the designate scenic roads within the city.
Oh, I do.
When you say scenic roads, are you referring to the official designation of scenic roads and therefore the regulations that go with it? Or are you referring to the New Hampshire Highway scenic scenic byways program that they have? 2 different programs.
I would say that in some of the stuff I've seen and read, you know, talking about making roller coaster or scenic road in RR2, I personally would be resistant because of the setbacks. when we're looking at some of these properties, even if you were to put it into a conservation easement, with the amount of infrastructure that's been put into the roller coaster for sewer, though not water, it would heavily impact singular landowners to be able to move from a 40-foot setback, which is an RR1, to a 75-foot setback, which is RR2. If you take that and use the setback from water, you're reducing the ability to utilize some properties here. Certainly, we're already inhibited in that they can't be under 250 feet of frontage, but or 200 foot deep, because it is RR1. I think you just close out an inordinate number of possible developments, whether it's 3 or 4 properties, who knows? But I think it would be a weight on the landowner to take that. And if you're putting something in, this is from all the talking to actual lawyers and stuff like that. Once you put in your conservation trust, you still maintain what's on the road so that you're able to, in the end, sell that off to protect the internals. And so if you reduce that too much, you make it uncomfortable or impossible for the landowner to maintain it.
Why isn't it loading?
Just saying, and I know how much we like to protect stuff, but it becomes a reality.
So for example, Parade Road, Route 106 is designated a scenic whatever they call it.
Byway,
Yeah, byway.
is that from the state?
That is from the state. And I have no idea how they arrived at that, but there are no regulations that go with it. It's just a designation on a map by the state that this is a pretty road to drive down. And someone has made that determination, and I don't know who that someone is, whether it's someone in DOT or whether, I don't know who it is. It wasn't anybody in the city that made that determination. And it's basic, and it's strictly based on, vistas that you see as you drive down the road. And in Parade Road's case, it's pastures, it's woods, it's farmhouses, it's, that kind of.
Until you get to Meredith, and then you have the view to the mountains.
Right, right. So there's that designation, and then, but a scenic road is a designation by the municipality. And once you make that designation, there are, as Mike was alluding to here, there are definite rules and regulations that the property owners need to follow, i.e. they can't disturb the rock walls that are along the street, they have to maintain vegetation, et cetera, et cetera. And yes, you can get dispensation, if you need to open up a rock wall a little bit to put a driveway in or something like that, you can get that, but you need to maintain pretty much what's there now, and it is regulated. So that's why I wanna make that distinction. It's kind of the same way, I think, of with the discussion we had at the last meeting concerning prime wetlands. Once you make that designation on a particular wetland or a series of wetlands, there are different regulations that come into play above and beyond our own, wetland and buffer and areas. So that's why I just want to caution you about, and if that's a goal, that's fine. I'm not saying you shouldn't have that goal, but I want you to be aware of the difference. Because we have had several people to say, how can they be allowed to do that on Prairie Road because it's a scenic road? And it's like, no, it's not. And they'll whip out the New Hampshire DOT map. Remember maps?
Yeah.
There'll be this green line up the road, and they'll say, see, it's right here. And I go, yeah, that's a scenic byway.
And in that also, you know, of course, being from the Weirs, and one of the things we really enjoy about the Weirs is the ability to grind a dollar. And so, at least at the state level, if it says this is a scenic road, people are inclined to go down it. But when it goes to the level of being RR2 or a city constructed one, and it puts on more constraints, it's really more than one could imagine, especially after paying taxes since 1958.
I guess when I look at the 7 goals, that goal number 2 was not top of my priorities. I think water quality, I think climate change, and then in terms of the rest of these, you know, I think they have a lot of common themes, so like conservation easements, partnering with resource organizations and neighboring communities, and reducing impact. You know, I think that those have a lot of similarities, so I'm more inclined to kind of lump those together. But I think when it comes to water quality, you know, if we don't have water quality here, we're sunk. And I think we need to put on hats to think more in a long-term manner. And that's why, you know, Patrick doing the assessment for flooding, I think that that's really important. But in terms of, you know, conservation easements, I mean, I can think of 2 conservation easements that I would like to see right now, but, you know, the people who own them are not interested in putting them into conservation easements, so we can't go in and, partnering, I think we can step up partnering with resource organizations and neighboring communities, and I think we're doing that. You know, we got the Winnisquam Watershed Network that's doing this build out and this for each of the municipalities surrounding a lake, and they're also looking at lands that could be conserved. And so, you know, they're doing the work for us. We just have to use the information. So I think that if I had 2, I would go with goal 1, water quality and quantity, and 3, climate change.
And you know what? I really support number 4 on goal number 2. It's really something that I would strive to be able to bring to this community.
A trail system.
Correct.
I think, you know, I think that we can maybe, I think that that's important too. I think if we had, but it's, you know, it's like when we talk about some of these things like expand RR2, that zone, you know, I think some of this information, if it was on a map so it's more visual, so that I could see, oh, that's what you're talking about. You know, where are some of the unfragmented blocks of land that if, you know, they were in conservation easements would provide an opportunity for wildlife to move from one area to another. You know, certainly one of them would be the state school property, so it could move from Winnisquam over to Opeechee.
That's something I kind of plan on investigating. I mean, it kind of ties into goal 4, action 1. I kind of plan on, after the master plan is all set, looking at what parcels in this city have the most value based on what we determine as a conservation land, and one of those big ones is the unfragmented block. So I would start, and it's kind of like, it's through GIS, but you give it, every parcel would get like a score almost. So if it's unfragmented, it would get, higher ranked than, a parcel in downtown.
Or if you had contiguous parcels, you may find that it gets a higher scoring. On contiguous parcels owned by the same
Yes.
entity.
So the other thing you could do, Dean, would be to, instead of limiting the number of goals, would be to maybe create two categories of goals, high priority, let's have high priority goals 1 and 2, and then, other goals, maybe, type, so that you're not missing all these things, but yet you're conveying that, yes, there's a lot of things here, but these are the two main ones that we really want to concentrate on, type thing. Just a suggestion.
Goal 7 too is education, and that can be incorporated into any of those goals. So we wouldn't have to have that separate.
Right.
I mean, it should naturally be in any of the goals anyway. Because in order to progress in a goal, you need to educate people.
But it's good that it says it.
It is, but I mean, we could say it within each goal.
Right.
Yeah, like, would you want me to maybe eliminate 7 and put in a note that says, develop outreach and education materials for water quality, for conservation lands? Okay.
I think that would clean it up a little.
Stop rewriting it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are other organizations that are doing some of the things that we're asking to be done. Like, we're talking about stream restoration plans under Goal 3. Well, that's already being done by Belknap County Conservation District, is looking at streams, rivers in the county, but there aren't any in Laconia. Because we didn't go to them and say, hey, we have this stream that we would like Trout Unlimited to come and do an appraisal of, to see how we can improve the water quality by putting woody material in the stream. And that could apply to Durkee and Jewett, and one of the issues with Jewett, I talked to Wes Anderson, is that they need a place to a retention or detention basin, but there's no land available. They would have to get it from a private, homeowner, and I think that would be important.
Or that spot in Guilford I told you about.
Yeah. And it's, and it may be that, like, maybe the stream that would be the most important for woody material would be Black Brook. But we'd have to work with Guilford, and I think that's the other thing, is that we need to look at what we do, or what our goals are relative to adjacent communities. So how can we talk to Guilford and come up with a way to deal with Black Brook? How can we talk to Meredith? And so it's, anyway. And I think that, goal number 4, parcels for conservation easement, the Winnisquam Watershed Network is gonna do that as part of they're gonna do a portion along Winnisquam for, as part of the management plan for the lake. So that's a piece of information we'll get for free.
Yeah. Okay.
But I thought that if what we did is we started out by working with the goals and actions, and then go back and look at specific text.
That's fine.
So we have the dog park, can we plant trees there? Can we plant trees over on the middle school property?
Can we plant something else besides Japanese maple downtown?
Yeah.
Maybe some bittersweet plants or some autumn olive instead.
Yeah, we know that they would do
It'll
well.
survive, right?
We could transplant it
That will
from
do.
Stacy's property.
I'll send them right on down.
But, you know, I think the other thing is looking at places where we can put in some pollinator gardens. And I know that Warren Clement bought, I think, 5,000 daffodil bulbs to plant around the city.
Cool.
Really?
I think he has a couple hundred left,
Wow,
so he's already done it.
he's been busy.
He's the
For
Johnny
an older
Appleseed.
man.
He's the Johnny Appleseed.
Yeah.
So maybe one of the things we can do is start looking for places where we can put pocket gardens, like the one down in downtown here. I think those are, you know, I think they do well. People don't, you know, are pretty respectful.
Yep.
It's relative.
The one by CVS looks wonderful. I mean, that's a pretty little place.
Daffodils at Pearly Pond. 100 of them around the edges.
He didn't put any there, and I planted about 150 of them, but I don't think I put any there. But I noticed that the snow is clearing away from Pearly Pond, and the white stakes that we put in last year are still there. That's good, so maybe the irises will pop back up. But one of the questions I have is, what does the city council want us to do there? Do they want us to do anything else?
I don't know. I'm not aware of
Back charge the owners.
city pursuing anything else there. I know that there was a lot of talk about doing different things, but it's all very expensive and there are environmental concerns about all of it, so I'm not aware of us going any further than what we've done already.
I mean, the thing that we could do that would be inexpensive would be pollinator gardens. We could plant in a whole row of sunflowers. Sunflowers come up facing the sun, and so that would be perfect if you're driving the right way down Parade Road, that scenic
Yeah.
byway.
Yeah, there's a few spots where you could off to the side or whatever, yeah, absolutely.
Are there better trees that would go better downtown? Is
Well, I don't know, it just, the whole Japanese maple has always been on the hoodoo voodoo list. And so,
should we as a commission make some
it
suggestions
seems
to the
like
city?
they've made their decision.
Have they bought them yet?
I don't know.
I don't
I know
think so.
she has a different kind of tree in mind,
Right.
but I don't know.
Talk about ginkgo, and that's an unusual tree in this area.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
they didn't sound like they were winter
They
hardy.
do.
There's one down at Shaker Village.
Is there?
Does it take over?
No, oh no, it just stands by itself.
I know that and I just skimmed through the article that was in the Sun because I had already been sort of briefed. But anyway, the openings in the sidewalks, where they are going to replace trees, they're going to make the openings larger along the curb line, not larger towards the building.
Right.
To get, a bigger area for water and nutrients to get into the trees. And I think they're going to use some type of a matting system to cover part of that dirt area so that you're not
So the roots don't crawl out
Yeah,
underneath the,
and
So it looks
Look,
prettier.
kind of protect it
Yeah.
from, foot traffic and that kind of stuff. But it's possible maybe, at least in the short goal, around some of these trees of maybe planting, a ring of
Daffodils.
flowers of some kind or something like that, just,
Right.
I thought that Amy Levisic came and made a presentation to us, talking about exactly what you said, having, a filtering device that would allow the water to enter.
I don't remember, but I think that's part of the plan. And I know that, one of the issues always is getting water to them. And, over on Pleasant, where they have the containers that have flowers in them, I believe it's the church ladies, but I'm not 100% sure. They're out there
And
a
whoever,
couple times a week with
yeah,
Oh, yeah, the
buckets of
churches
water
has
to-
a crew that does
Yeah.
regular watering,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
and it's Warren's church, so
That's
he
Warren's business.
does that. But also, I think the businesses, that they're in front of, I think they
Yeah.
take care of them too.
I agree with that, because I've seen people from Burrito Me going down, and from the Wayfair, them going with their watering containers.
The city manager does the two little gardens that are
No,
out here.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
good,
He weeds them and he waters them.
good.
And who's
So if we
gonna
have
do
any
it when he's
complaints?
gone?
so that's gonna be part of the new requirement?
Yeah, duties to be assigned as necessary, it's that last paragraph on the job description, right?
Okay, so let's get back to the goals and actions here. How do we want to handle this? Do we want to pick out a couple of goals and like, if I was gonna choose the two goals, I would choose goals 1 and 3, and then, so if we, as a commission, agree to do 2 goals and then flesh them out, so that when we come back to the next meeting, we can give Taylor specific comments instead of like,
So you're thinking like everyone takes a goal or two when they flush it?
no, we agree that we're gonna take 2 goals, whatever those 2 are, and everybody works on those 2 goals, not any others.
Okay, like the 2 priority goals, and then anything else that's left over, I can make an other goals section that's, not our priority ones.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
Okay.
So,
I don't know. I think it's nice to have more than 2.
okay, so how many do you think we should have?
Well, I cut number 7 for you already.
Right,
And I think 5 and 6, I think 6 could be incorporated too,
in the other
in
goals.
some of another goals, yeah.
Okay.
But I think we should have at least 4, don't you?
Sure,
Or
and I
5?
don't see it as
I mean, it's-
being over
Do we have to, we don't have to
burdensome,
limit ourselves, right?
no?
No,
Yeah.
no. What I was trying to do is to get it so that we come back next meeting and we give Taylor specific comments on each one of the goals that we've chosen to give comments on. So if we wanna do 4, that's fine.
And I think it would be important, as you talked about earlier, Dean, to at least in our mind, as we're going through this, to refer back to the earlier text to make sure that we've got these topics covered and it's not contradictory to the goal versus the findings, you know what I mean?
Our previous goals, cause there was a list of previous goals,
There were, yes.
and then some of them that we had ticked off and moved forward on.
Right.
Certainly not all of them, but we've seen that list before.
I know the earlier text there's significant portions of background and just statements of fact, you know, we have these soil conditions, we have these rock conditions, we have this, you know. I mean, there's not really gonna be anything contradictory in that, but, you know, you just don't wanna, you don't wanna make a statement somewhere else in the text that's not,
Consistent.
yeah.
Okay, so what do we want to do? Bob, what do you think?
So you were thinking of just addressing for the next time our highest priorities, and then maybe looking at the others at another time?
Well, and fleshing out, like if we agree that we're gonna do certain goals, that we flesh them out so that we don't just come back and say, okay, you know, what Taylor's done here is fine, but instead, you know, you've got a lot of history in this city, Mike has a lot of history, I'm the new guy here, so if you can pick out, you know, pieces of information to flesh these out more, I think that's what would be
Yeah.
the most helpful to Taylor.
Yeah.
Mr. Foote?
I concur.
Do you want to read mine? Read that out loud. That comes from Mike.
Hi, Taylor, I just want to give you my 2 cents. Do you really want?
The short-term goal part.
For short-term goals, I feel that invasive species, educating public, aquifer protection, overlay district, and stream restoration should be a priority.
There you go. Very good.
Is there any land available for conservation acquisition? Well, there's this question too.
Okay, I'm just trying to put some arms around this so we can make progress here instead of like, oh yeah, well, we started this like 6 months ago and we're not like.
So what is it that you're trying to accomplish here?
I'm trying to say.
some of these seem to be pretty good here. And so what is it that we're really looking to put in it? What is it you're mining for?
Okay, so I'm saying, let's take goal number 1 as an example, water quality and water quantity. So, aquifer protection district, so is there a groundwater map somewhere that we can say, okay, we already have the aquifers mapped.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
So,
We know where they are.
okay, so which of those do we think are most important? And then, so we have specific comments. Prime wetlands, do we want to go for prime wetlands? So if we're going to go for prime wetlands, we know what we have to accomplish. We have to talk to the city council, we have to get them on board. We have to talk to the planning board, get them on board.
How many prime wetlands do you have?
So I don't know the answer to that because I don't know
None
what,
that are listed, but
right,
See, that's my understanding.
yeah, we have none so far, but
And if that's something we decide that's not within the goals of the city, you know, 10 years forward, is if we're never gonna get past city council kind of thing, that's something we can take out, and that's, you know, just something in our back pocket that we're thinking about.
well, I think I don't go up quite that easily. I would want to go to Meredith because they have prime wetlands. Samberton doesn't, Guilford doesn't, but Meredith does. So go to Meredith and say, why? How did you do it? What was the reaction from your residents or whatever? So that when we go to make a recommendation, if we go to make a recommendation on prime wetlands to the city council, we have some ammunition. It's not like, oh, I think this is a really good idea. Well, that's great, Dean. You know, could you go please sit down? Because we don't think it's a good idea.
What designates a prime wetland?
I don't know, because that's what I'm saying.
It has to do with the size and the amount of functionality it has. If it, you know, I think there's 8 different types of functions a
Right,
wetland can
right.
have. If it's got 4, it might be in the running.
Yeah, I would think that if we went for prime wetlands, we would have specific wetlands in mind, and I would put them in the Aquifer Protection District, so there's an overlay, there's a justification for, you know, we're not just, you know, this is not like all wetlands are gonna be prime wetlands. We have specific ones. Anyway, so do we wanna pursue prime wetlands? What, I think mapping the vernal pools in the city as we identify them is really important.
Don't we have that?
We just got another one tonight.
Yeah, it's like yes and no. It doesn't constantly update, but like we can keep track of the new ones added.
Right.
Do you
And
guys-
what makes the new one is when a soil scientist comes by and says it is.
Usually it's when a project comes in and they say we found a vernal pool.
Right.
That's how we find out, unless
We don't go out searching for them.
go.
Unless you wanna take your drone and go look.
So
He eats too much.
So I think the other thing is we have, you know, survey private wells and septic systems. I think that's probably pretty easy to do. Wherever we don't have sewers, that's where you got it. And
Some
then-
of that comes into play in the stuff that they did on Waukee
Right.
and this Meredith, where they found that all of the development had been done in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 70s, and we had septics and outflow into Waukee, and that was some of their base for bringing some of that underhand.
Okay, so I talked to a man who got an axe to grind, but that's okay, who said that they targeted cleaning septic systems around Webster Lake. Webster Lake always had a water quality problem. They targeted cleaning septic systems around those, and the water quality in Webster Lake improved. So if we want to take that approach, then certainly we go right down my street and everybody's on a septic system. So it's, you know, then it would be suggesting to people that they clean their septic system on a regular basis, whatever that is.
I can also tie that goal into education, homeowner education about water quality, so.
So I think Taylor has identified, you know, good items under each goal, and I would just like to flesh them out and think about each one in more detail so that we can say, yes, we want to include this under goal 1, or really it goes under goal 4 instead, and anyway. Just trying to come up with a process here, because we could just go with what Taylor's already done. Say, that's good enough.
Well, you wouldn't make any judgments.
You know, it's not the way I'm suggesting to go, because, you know, Deb
Right.
came up
No,
with a
I
great
understand.
idea. Go put goal number 7 under every single one of these. So I'm just trying to come up with a methodology for identifying, fleshing out the goals. Because I suppose somebody has to approve our list of goals. No?
No, there you are. Sorry, planning board, yes.
Yeah, okay. So if we go to the planning board with these goals, we better be able to document why we think they're good goals. Taylor did them. She thinks it's a really good idea. Ask her. She's not here tonight.
Oh, when it comes to the planning board, she will be there.
Bless your kid.
No, I mean, okay, so,
So maybe goal 1 could also include the schools,
what do you mean, education?
starting
Yeah,
at the school age to get protection.
yeah. I mean, I think
Get it
that,
drilled into them.
right.
We try.
So we're gonna put education under each one of these goals that we have so far.
Right.
All ages, all age school kids.
School age for goal
Or
number 1.
just 1, or just 7 that says this is the way we approach it all the time. You don't have to write it 7 times or 6 times now that you take it out. Just know that it's one of the ways that you approach these types of things.
That could be just a little add-on. In each of these goals, we are striving for citizen involvement and education,
It's like an overarching thing.
right?
Okay. Are there any of these goals that we do not want to pursue?
No, I think that what I see here personally, and I would not weigh my beliefs on anybody else's, it is fairly comprehensive. And I wouldn't want to leave one out, as I see this of these 7.
One of the things that you talked about, Mike, was goal number 2, and having scenic roads being a burden on property owners. So we might leave that goal in there and say, we do not support identifying scenic roads because of the additional burden we would be putting on property owners.
But, whereas Dean talked about scenic roads, which is on our state maps, and it has nothing to do
Right.
with that. That's something
Right.
you want to bring into your community. That's
Right.
what you want to say, that you're like riding around taking a good view.
Right, so, we can't do anything about the scenic byways that the state has designated.
Or you could accept it in the community, but what are you protecting in scenic roads? You have leftover, you have roller coaster, and you have Hilliard. And Hilliard, on the north side of it, is 300-something acres of something that's already in a conservation easement. You're not going to see anything there. The south side of it, interesting, I don't know, does it need the burden or not, depending upon how you feel about what you need for more housing. But we only have so many roads. Once again, I shrink at roller coaster. I think that the community there is mostly built up. And what you're going to see is to squeeze the few landowners that are left with a burden for making tax payment or development is unnecessary.
Well, I think scenic road is, that's a scenic road.
And if you go to North Carolina and you're on your motorcycle and you get the North Carolina map, you're going to look down at the Dragon's Tail,
Right.
or you're going to look at these things. It doesn't bring anything that I know of for the development around it, but for the enjoyment of the motoring public, it's something they may want to partake of.
What if I, for goal 2, eliminated action 1 and 2 and instead wrote something along the lines of promote landscaping that benefits the views of the city? So that's something that
Is
something we can incorporate.
landscaping that is
Like it would
conservation minded. Hey, you go RR2, all of a sudden you can't cut within that line. All of a sudden you're going to let your field grow up 75 feet in, and you're not going to have those views anymore.
Okay,
Comment?
yes, please.
I was just thinking goal number 2, number 4 would just work a lot better under goal number 5. And then I would just eliminate goal number 2. Because the whole thing is goals and actions, and you actually want to work on something. This is a very overwhelming list.
Yeah, but I still like, out of goal number 2, I still like action number 4.
Yeah, I
And I
said
wouldn't want
move
to
4
see that
under goal 5.
disappear into the world.
Yeah.
Number 4 would go under goal number 5.
Perfect, I concur.
Because
Okay.
it's working with other communities.
Right. Or
Okay.
landowners.
It's 7:26. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take item number 4 from goal number 2 and put it under goal 5. And then we we're gonna take goal 7, we're gonna put education under all these other goals, and then we're going to flesh out goals 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay?
Sounds fine to me.
Okay. Horse dead?
So it is said, so it shall be, right?
Okay, so I would like to go back to what Deb was talking about before with the silt socks, but I want to take a different approach, and I want to include the silt socks, and that is, and this is a question to Dean. What do you think about having members of the Conservation Commission, as they drive around town, identify areas that are sites, specific sites that are not consistent with the constraints that we put on those sites, for instance, silt socks?
The more eyes, the better.
I think we do
Okay.
that now, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
we
Okay.
did that
I
with
don't have any
Opiki.
problem with that.
Okay, so then we go to Plan B. Plan B is that when we identify a site, you assign that site to us, or you assign sites to us to go and look, do a windshield survey, and report to Taylor, this is what we saw on this site that we think is not consistent with city regulations. So we don't get out of the car, we don't go on somebody else's property for sure,
Take
we
pictures.
just point out what we find.
That's fine, and
We can stand on the city sidewalk, right?
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
She can follow up, and, you know, on the more tougher ones, then we'll have a discussion, you know, but she's out
Right,
2-3 times, you know, this time of year and on through November, she's out 2-3 times a week inspecting and anyway, so.
And just for reference, it's mostly shoreline properties that would be the ones I miss. If it's a wetland property, if it has a CUP, I already go to them weekly or bi-weekly, depending on, you know, what stage they're at. But shoreline ones can be trickier because we don't review all of those permits at this level, so sometimes I might forget that 30 Dennis Ave is building a new home, and that's out on the cul-de-sac that I can't see from the road, so it slips my mind kind of thing. Like, that's like the latest example I can think of that you contacted me about.
okay. All right, so I'm not happy with DES because they issue permits and they don't follow up.
Join the line.
They don't follow up.
Well,
Well, it costs too much and they don't have the people and
That's, you know what,
and the ship is stuck in the
you know,
canal and
so I guess there was a particular property where I was concerned that they had overcut on the water's edge. So I called the lady who was the project manager for the state, and she said, okay, send a written complaint, and you need to sign it. You can't send it anonymously.
So you can't send it anonymously, but you can request that your information is not shared. DES needs to know how to get in contact with you, but they do not have to share that with the property owner. You can request that they don't.
Okay, so
That's a trust factor.
that is a trust factor. I was already trusting them that if they issued the permit, that they would follow up and check. So they already, betrayed my trust. So would the city be willing if I said, hey, this person doesn't seem to be in compliance with their permit, would the city be willing to say,
Sign Taylor's name? Absolutely.
I've been practicing for weeks.
Sure.
Okay. Okay.
I don't wanna,
Yeah, I mean, don't give me like 20 a week, cause
Well,
they are.
No, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that,
I
but,
also don't want you to have false expectations. I mean, your earlier statement about you're disappointed with DES, there's a reason you made that statement, because,
They have one inspector for this whole region.
yeah, they're,
that's not my problem.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is when.
Well, yeah, it is.
I don't want my tax dollars to go to
It is our
DES, how
problem.
about that? Now they won't have one.
I'm just trying to say that when you send in that complaint, it goes to this lady's desk and she's got a file to work down to.
It's a round one, it sits right around this corner to the right.
Trees will have grown up
But,
by
I
then.
mean, I would like to think that if the complaint comes from the city, it may have just
Little bit more
slightly more little,
teeth.
impact than coming from, you know.
But I wouldn't,
Johnny Hawk,
I wouldn't put it all on Taylor. It's just, some of it you gotta stand up and do.
What do you mean?
Well, I wouldn't call Taylor to have her file a complaint about Brady Sullivan blowing in for unlicensed crossings in my neighborhood. But I do have to call here to ask about it.
So what do you do?
Call here and ask about it, and then nothing happens, and so there it is. Cause you can't do anything once they do it, it depends upon the level of, where they're carrying. If they're big boys, they're just gonna blow it right in. You can bully a homeowner, but you can't bully the developers. They're gonna do what they want.
No, we can't let that happen,
If
seriously.
if DES gives somebody a CUP, do they let us know? Do they take it to the planning board and say, this is what we're letting happen in your town?
We get notified. Any permit that they approve, we get notified.
But what if you disagree with it?
So that's like, remember earlier how I was saying if you wanna see all standard dredge and fill permits, so that, when I send those out, that would be the opportunity to intervene. There's a time frame where we can contact.
Oh, there is,
DES.
because I mean,
Usually not.
is somebody from the city saying, wait, you're telling them they can build 2 feet from the water, but that's not what we prefer?
I mean,
How,
as,
when does our say override, it doesn't override the state?
not directly, no. So in the case that, try to use a good example,
OPG Street.
Which I did bring the plans for those if you wanna see them.
yeah, see, they're not in our SPOD district, so, that particular parcel. I don't remember if it was Layton or, Eastman Shore, but, one of the property owners wanted to build a perched beach, for example, okay? They had to get a DES shoreline permit.
Right.
And they also needed a CUP from the city, which is the planning board, but all CUPs that are associated with wetlands anyway, or water bodies, get
Right.
reviewed by you as well.
Right.
So you could approve or disapprove of the CUP, and that recommendation goes to the planning board. I can't,
So, but what I'm
as you
saying
know,
is.
I can't guarantee you that they are going to follow your recommendation.
Right,
But-
I mean, like, so if the state says, yes, these people can build somewhere, and the planning board doesn't agree with it, can they actually put a stop to it?
Yes, they don't grant the CUP, yes,
But
Okay.
that's-
So it's not just the state saying, yes, you can do this.
right. But I mean, but it's only on the stuff that's actually on land. I mean, if it's a dock,
Right.
you
I mean,
can't do
right,
anything.
right,
But
but I mean, yeah, I wanted to make sure that the state just can't say, oh yeah, they can do that there, and the city has no control over it.
Well, so they kinda can in the sense of shoreline permits are not reviewed aside from the way I get them. If it's certain developments are reviewed based on if they meet the requirements for planning board. But
Right.
For example, 13 know, Peachy is not in the shoreline protection overlay district. I know it's on the shoreline, but the language, that parcel's not a part of it. Meanwhile, all properties on Layton Ave, they need a shoreline permit, but those don't all go to planning board.
But if anything touches the water, why isn't that being reviewed? I don't understand that.
Because the state owns the water.
'Cause
To the mean water level.
We have designated certain sections of our waterfront as not part of the shoreline protection overlay.
And we do review building permits for everything on the shore.
Should that be changed?
You certainly could propose that. I mean, for instance, from the railroad bridge at Messer Street,
I do remember us talking about this, but
down the river.
I guess I wasn't clear on what it meant.
And I don't remember if it's Eager Island or whether it's the second railroad bridge, but somewhere in that spot. All of that area is exempt from two things. It's exempt from our shoreland overlay, and it's also exempt from DES. Not 100% exempt from DES, but it's like a permit by notification type situation. Because DES recognizes, and we recognize that entire section is already all 100% developed. Anything that occurs there is a redevelopment situation. It's not like you're taking a 2-acre parcel of land that's all forest and putting something on there. That doesn't exist in that section. We have another section like that in the Weirs Channel on both sides of the Weirs Channel I forget exactly where it starts, but it wraps around, it goes under the bridge and into the actual lake, encompasses Lakeside Avenue, shorefront up until, and again, I'm not sure, I can't remember exactly where it ends, but it certainly is somewhere beyond the pier. And it also goes on the other side of the channel, wraps around, say, Lucerne Avenue type situation, but, and then it goes into effect. I mean, so
So
there are.
regulations aren't as stiff on those properties? Is that,
For instance, if you, North Water Marine, for instance, with the old
Right.
Thurstons, they did not need a CUP from the city to do what they're doing. They did need DES permits, and for their, but they did not need a city CUP.
so if somebody within that district wants to build an in-law house now, if we change those
Yeah.
regulations, it'll be easier for them to do because they're not within the shoreline protection?
If they're not within the 50 feet, yeah, right. Or if the property doesn't have the overlay on it, yes. I mean, there are still restrictions and there are still other things that they've got to be considered, but
Right. Interesting.
coming to you and then to the planning board for a CUP is not one of the things that they would have to do.
Thank you for explaining that.
Okay, let's see, where are we here? So we have the DES applications. Anything on that, Taylor?
No, the only one, we just got a new marina one today, but they haven't been approved or received by DES or anything right now, so that'll come sooner or later, but,
Where is it?
the marina on the Misaki River, right, that goes out to Winnisquam.
Winnisquam, the old.
Oh, it used to be
The one
Martell.
across from the
Martell, yeah.
from the launch?
So sooner or later, they'll be coming our way, but
What do they want to do?
a lot of it's just repair in kind. I think it'll end up being less structure overall, but
Originally they had very intense,
I was gonna say, wasn't this a
Ideas.
restaurant?
but they're scaled back.
Aw.
Yeah, DES didn't allow the restaurant,
Aw,
so.
It's an interesting
no
outfit.
restaurant on the water.
I mean, they were closed some of the busiest days last summer. It was strange.
Yeah.
Kind of strange.
They lost their leader.
Yeah,
Is
the
that what
new
it was?
owners didn't take over until late in the summer. So, it's the old owners, yeah, they were a little sporadic.
Yeah.
Are they gonna be launching boats from this new establishment?
I believe they have a
They have
ramp.
one
I
ramp.
believe they have.
They already have a ramp,
They have
yeah.
a ramp now, and they believe they're gonna refurbish it and,
Open it up because they closed it off.
right.
So all those
Yeah, I
people
don't- I
would
don't
come
know.
across to our ramp and.
Yeah, I don't know what they're planning. We haven't got to the point where we have a site plan
Ooh,
per
I
se.
can't wait
We have the,
to tell them how to do some landscaping.
So are they, is this place associated with the building that's across the street from Martell's?
no,
And that building is boat storage?
yes.
Okay.
How's that coming?
I was surprised he didn't have boats in it over the winter. He did not, so
There's plenty of boats.
Did he get rid
Gotta
of the
keep
dirt
'em
yet?
somewhere. They can't take them home, you know.
They
'cause
didn't get rid of the
can't
dirt?
keep 'em in their yard.
Oh, good.
I believe so.
Yeah, they got rid of the dirt
Oh, good.
last summer, or last fall, I mean.
Okay. I haven't been down there.
Heaven forbid they take their boat home with them.
I think there's a law about that, isn't there? You ought to be, right?
Okay, we have other business. I have 2 items under other business.
There's one.
You have one, you go.
Lake Coast. I've been looking at the numbers for the grant. I sent an email to Mr. Gothier. I haven't heard back yet. We will probably get $1,000 from New Hampshire Lakes. If we have a lake host there 6 hours a day, Saturday and Sundays at $12 an hour, we'll need, for 10 weeks, we'll need like $1,500, $1,600. So I think that's very doable, because I think don't we have $1,000
We put,
for the commission?
right.
Yes.
So that would be my proposal, that they work 8 to 2, Saturday and Sundays. $12 an hour, I think, is fair. They pay 13 at the other ramp, but that's a lot more work. O-Pee-Chee is not as hard. But I'm waiting to see what Mr. Gothier says, because I told him, I said, we'd like any input on how they feel. If they wanted to chip in some money, then we could add hours. I also told him that we wanted his input on what to put on the kiosk. That a lot of times lake associations will have their newsletters up there also, so, yeah. And that's due in 2 weeks, so we have
So
some
is there
time.
a chance we can go to Alan Beadle?
Well, I think Mr. Gothier, I mean, he's head of that association, so,
Right, he may be in Florida or something. Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay. So, you have anything, Mr. Foot?
Not last Sunday, but the Sunday before with, American Legion Post number 1, we hosted a kids fishing derby down on the pond, which got good reviews. We got our picture in the paper for the right reasons. They came and they had underwater cameras and bathymetric measurers so they could tell me the depth of my channels.
cool.
So I was able to learn a little bit more of my own pond. We made the paper, and it was good outreach, and we could say good things about fishing, kids, and good weather. They had speakers set up with a tent and hot dogs and hamburgers,
That's awesome.
of which we got one little bass who had to go back in, and not much else on the fish board, but everybody had a good time.
How can you not have a good time fishing?
As I said it myself, sunshine, my dogs went around and separated every child from at least one of its mittens.
I thought thought you were gonna say hot dogs.
That also.
So you're having a mitten sale, or you're making a contribution too?
You got a left-handed seal, you got a right-handed.
Golly. Okay, so I had two other things. One is, on city property, can we do tree plantings? And can we have pollinator gardens? And how do you get approval, you know, cause that's like a general statement and you need to be more specific, I know that.
We'll find out.
Okay, maybe we have to go to Amy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the answer is yes, but it may not be carte blanche. We may need to have specific plans and specific parcels, but yeah.
Okay.
We, one of the teachers at the middle school is working with conservation, Belknap County this summer, and she has plans to have kids build, bee houses, yeah. So she's got all kinds of plans, they look like little cardboard tubes. And
Yeah.
and the bees go in and rest there,
So,
who knew?
so my bee houses have straws,
Okay,
just a tube, and I put straws in them.
like paper straws?
No, I use the regular straws. I go to a store and.
Plastic
restaurant-
straws?
Plastic straws?
Plastic straws?
Are you serious? Oh
Hey.
my God.
You know, they give them to me. I don't throw them away. I put them in and let it be.
Straws are no longer a thing.
That's so 2021.
Okay. And is that Susan O.H.?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, we talked to her the other, okay. So, Taylor Community.
Yes,
So, I got an email from Paula Chambers.
that's logical.
She asked me, I had given her sunflower seeds a few years ago, and she asked me if I had sunflower seeds. Well, I told her I just bought mine over, at a store. So, I would like to see how we can be more supportive of the environmental stuff that you guys are doing.
It's a good question. I'm new to that.
Right.
But I've kept my eyes open the last couple of years, summers, see what they've been doing around there, and haven't really detected any pattern for what they're doing for tree removal, although the fellow at the last town hall said that the focus was on ash tree.
Oh, those things are in bad shape.
And I think they're all gone. They're working on other stuff now. And I don't know if we've got a particular reason for taking trees down. Well, just one example, this last week, do you know Bois Circle? They're just beyond the tower, the radio tower. Well, right at the entrance of it, there were three white pine trees, that big around at the base. They took those down, got rid of them. I saw them hauling the pieces with a bucket loader down to their yard, and now they've ground up the stumps.
Yes, I
And it
heard them
almost
doing
looks like
that.
they're adding more space to put their mowers on. So, but anyway, that's, and I don't know if there's any connect really between, say, the environmental stewardship committee that Paula chairs and the administration. Other than her or somebody making some noise. But I put some of my observations in a email that I sent to the committee about things that I had observed, and a lot of they've been taking out some of the invasives, like burning bush, but not all. No, it varies on what units they're gonna be working on. When they're redoing a unit, sometimes it seems like you go in, pull out all of the foundation planting in front of it, and I don't know what they do with it, just haul it off. But there's interest among the members of the committee to have some effort aimed toward, if they're doing replanting, picking appropriate local or native species.
Mhm.
And also taking a look at things like the pollination potential. I don't think there's a basswood tree on the whole property. But if there are basswood trees there, those bees would love that in midsummer. Things like that.
Okay, so if there's anything,
Would you be interested in looking over what I sent to that committee?
Yeah, absolutely.
I can ship it to the committee.
that would be great. If you send it to Taylor, she'll shoot it to us.
Well, yeah, I'll send it to you and then you send it, okay, rather than ship it to everybody, yeah, okay.
Yeah, save you some stamps.
And,
No, well, that's an email.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
and you don't constitute a meeting,
What?
you don't constitute a meeting unintentionally by sending it to everybody.
Yeah.
That's why the singular from Taylor.
Okay. But there is a lot of concern on the part of the residents, and the question is, how does that get effectively put over in the lap of the administration?
So maybe a way of doing it would be to tell us, and then we would ask them to come, the administration, come to the meeting, and we could talk about it.
Oh, well, that might work, yeah.
We do that, right? Okay.
Because I guess probably a good part of the difficulty is that residents don't own any of that property.
Right,
So, for example, there was a large, it may have been a Douglas fir, it was a fir tree. It was big around. Last year, they came in our backyard, they cut it down, took it out. I asked the neighbor, did they ask you about that? He said, no. They just came in and took it
just
down.
administration.
Yeah.
All about the business.
This is a Douglas fir, I suppose. It's a non-native species, but I didn't look at it closely enough to tell whether it was that or a balsam.
There must be a method
But
to
they
their
do things
madness.
like that. They've been taking a lot of trees down and didn't seem to be a lot of pattern for it.
Well, if we can help, we're here.
Okay. Well, I'll ship that thing to you, Taylor, and you can
Okay.
share it around, see what
Only hope it was
what thoughts come to your mind from that.
Okay,
Maybe that's why.
great.
they only
And
look
I'm not
at-
sure just what's gonna happen with the Environmental Services Committee. There was one meeting, and that's the only one I've attended. But it's Paula Chambers is a ramrod there. I don't, have you met Paula?
Yeah,
Oh,
right, isn't that who we
she's-
met when we were up there? Yeah.
Yeah. She's a bit of a law unto herself, I've gathered.
Southern, right? She's Southern?
What's that?
She's a Southern lady? Wasn't she Southern?
Yeah, I guess, I don't know what her background is. But her focus primarily, I guess, has been, on the gardens that are there around the pavilion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is pretty low impact, really. And I think that's where the sunflower seeds went, to gardeners there, because that's where there were sunflowers. I didn't see too many other places.
Okay. All right, but if you could keep us
Yeah.
abreast, that
Okay.
would be great. Thanks. Okay, any other new business? No? Liaison and subcommittee reports.
I took advantage of that New Hampshire Rivers Council, the webinar, Rivers Do What? And, quite fascinating. I did not realize they were an entire volunteer organization, but they had some great photos of students creating rain gardens, in their school yards, which was a perfect way of getting other people to do your work. And they had, they did make mention, the presenter hates dams. I had no idea they were so horrible. By the end of the presentation, you wanted to blow up all the dams.
That's what they're doing on the Penobscot.
But, well, apparently that's a good thing. What else was there? Using wood and vegetation for silt socks. That was something that, and also, actual wood. Using that as, erosion control. So,
You
For a
like
lo- on a
logs?
long term?
Like a log?
like,
Yeah.
they had pictures of huge, logs.
Yeah.
Yep, and then vegetation. But it was really, it was good, it was fascinating, and, there is a lot of work out there that needs to be done, but they do a lot. They also do, river runners.
Yeah.
Those are invasive species training program. You can request a workshop and they'll come in and have all these photos for you that you can, hand out to like lake hosts or
We did it once with the elementary school. We had
Or
them
to-
come in, yeah.
put up on the kiosk or something. So it was nice.
Do you have a contact there that you could ask to come in and do a presentation?
NHRivers.org has all the info, I believe.
I can look and see if we can get in contact with someone. Are
Okay.
you thinking for a presentation for us or?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I'll look into that.
Okay. That's it?
I bet they do something at the mill this summer too, if they had another
Well, we're gonna get asked
public
to do.
day or whatever
Yeah,
that was.
they're gonna, the mill will ask us to do another presentation. They just got a new, executive director. So Cheryl Avery was the executive director for, Boys and Girls Club.
Oh,
Anyway. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Staff.
I have something small. I'm working with Amy about the, kiosk at the OPG boat ramp. They would not be able to replace it this summer, so I went out and looked at it. I think a good paint job would be fine, but, I'm looking at online for different types of messaging boards that we can replace that, plywood board with, so that it's something we can lock up and have be weatherproof. So if you leave tonight, out the right door from the bottom of the stairs where we keep the agendas and everything, I'm looking at trying to get something like that where I can have a key, Parks can have a key, that we can just go in and replace things. Cause just a plexiglass sheet would make it really difficult to change messaging in there,
Yeah, you'd have to unscrew it each time.
so.
But there's the
Okay, you
kiosk,
can do it.
the kiosk at Water Street doesn't have a cover on it. Just has,
That has more, I think that
That's-
just has more cover. But that's
Yeah.
more
also,
what?
that's a fish and game ranch.
Yeah,
Might have
You
put
mean
that.
that has a roof on it?
Yeah,
well, ours has a yeah, it
it's
has
got
it,
a little roof.
it's a little more protected and,
So you want me to see if I could get somebody to do it?
Well, Park says they'll do it, it's just a
Yeah.
matter of getting the messaging board, like the proper kind. So I was just saying, that's something I'm working on, hopefully we can get it in pretty soon. If I ordered something, I don't know when that'll be in, so.
would it cover the whole thing?
I'm gonna go out and measure some more, see how wide of a box we could get, cause you can get like double panel ones, you can get one box, get a box and put it sideways, so.
I thought you said Amy couldn't do it this year.
She can't replace the the entire thing.
We don't wanna replace
We
it.
don't want it.
So that was the other thing. The original notes I had said to replace, so I was just double checking to make sure we're good with just painting and
Oh, yeah.
fixing the message board.
I think it was just to replace the board.
Okay.
That is, you know, whatever it is, T111 or, you know, and then put the information on there, you know, with the waterproof laminated kinds of,
I mean, it would be great if we could have a plexiglass thing,
Yeah,
only
so-
because there's so much foot traffic there. Who
Yeah,
knows what
I'll keep everyone
things
posted
would look
on
like.
when we might be able to get that installed, but
okay.
it's work in progress.
It's okay.
Okay.
And maybe the preservation group has some ideas too.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff I was looking at today looked to be close to $500 for a messaging board that would cover that area.
Yeah.
But that's why I need to go out and measure and make sure we have the right estimates, so. If that's something they might be interested in contributing to, I'm sure the city would not be opposed.
Oh,
Certainly not.
good. Yep. They got some good money now in their little fund.
Okay. Dean, do you have anything?
No.
Okay. Okay, anything else?
And if you do, I'll throw something.
Mr. Foot, this is
Back over.
your,
Why is it me? Do I
Because
look
we
like I
did-
need to escape?
no.
I'm basking in the camaraderie of my
Make a motion.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in
Okay,
favor?
okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Want me to get it for you?